In this session, we will focus on people-to-people connectivity, promoting the exchange of culture, tourism, education, and know-how. We're honored to have 4 distinguished speakers with us today, guided by our esteemed moderator, Ms. Christina Chan, head of the Culture and Tourism Unit at the ASEAN-Korea Center. Allow me to introduce our speakers. Dr. Sasiwimon Warunsiri Paweenawat, Associate Professor of the Faculty of Economics at Thammasat University. Dr. Jihee, Senior Research Fellow of the Korea Research Institute for Vocational Education and Training. Mr. Sae-byuk, Manager of the Global Business Development Division at Codepresso. And finally, Dr. William Jones, Assistant Professor of Social Science at Mahidol University International College. I'm delighted to introduce our first speaker, Dr. Sasiwimon Warunsiri Paweenawat, who is joining us virtually through Zoom. She will provide valuable insights on the topic of the impact of labor mobility on regional integration. Please join me in giving her a warm round of applause as we welcome her to the session.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. First, I would like to thank ASEAN Korea Center for inviting me to participate in this great event. Today, we will discuss the impact of labor mobility on the regional integration within the ASEAN. Here is the roadmap of our discussion today. Let me begin with the overview of labor mobility in ASEAN. Then, we will discuss the benefit of labor mobility for regional integration, the limitation of the labor mobility within ASEAN. Then, I will present my paper that study the MRA on engineering services in ASEAN. Finally, I will make a conclusion and recommendation. Let's begin with the ASEAN Labor Mobility Framework. The ASEAN Labor Mobility Framework has made a remarkable progress to facilitate skilled professional mobility across ASEAN. There are 2 key components. First, mutual recognition arrangements or MRAs. This arrangement covers 8 professions, for example, engineering, nursing, architect, and medicine. This arrangement aims to promote qualification, recognition, as well as increase an employment opportunity across borders. However, the implementations of this MRA vary by professions and countries. The second component is the ASEAN Qualification Reference Frameworks, or AQRF. These frameworks serve as a common reference to compare qualifications across the ASEAN countries. This aims to support the recognitions, lifelong learning, and mobility across ASEAN. At current state, some ASEAN countries have referenced national qualification framework to the ASEAN Qualification Reference Frameworks, or we call AQRF. Let me update the recent development.
Dr. Paweenawat, I think you are muted. Yes, we can hear you now. Thank you.
You can hear me now?
Yes,
okay.
yes.
Okay, so let me start. Okay, for the recent development in the ASEAN mobility, in October 2024, ASEAN adopted the Vientiane Declarations on Skill Mobility, Recognition and Development for Migrant Workers. This declaration aim to improve like the country's commitment on improving policy and framework, and aim to enhance the mobility recognition and development for the workers across member states. And it aims to make an inclusive employment opportunities as well as strengthen regional partnerships. Let me talk about the benefit of labor mobility for the regional integrations. Of course, we will talk about the economic growth. The labor mobility can increase that economic growth in the ASEAN country by resolving skill gaps, facilitating knowledge exchange, as well as boosting competitiveness. Beyond the economic aspect, we will discuss the social and cultural integrations. The labor mobility will foster cultural exchange across nations, as well as building regional solidarity and advancing regional integration goals. However, we have some limitations of the labor mobility within ASEAN. The first one, the limited scope of the MRAs. The arrangement cover only 8 professions, which represent only 1.5% of workforce. If we compare to the NAFTA, which is just only free trade area, it covers more than 63 professions with work permit to work across 3 member states. Furthermore, 87% of intra-ASEAN migrants are unskilled workers, so they are not covered by this formal agreement. The second point is the restrictive policy. Some countries require that if the company want to hire the foreign worker, the company need to demonstrate these foreign workers can have a skill or knowledge transfer to the local employees. Or in some countries, some occupations are legally restricted to citizens only. The final important point is the visa and work permit. We lack of uniform standards across the regions. This limited incentive for the employee to hire workers from the other ASEAN member nations. Let me present the case study of ASEAN MRA on engineering services. This paper is a book chapter in the skill, labor, mobility, and migration, challenges and opportunity for the ASEAN Economic Community. This book is published by Asian Development Bank, or we know ADB. Right? For this paper, I work with Dr. Jessica Wetbanyong Ratana. We try to investigate the labor market for skilled workers in the ASEAN countries. And we studied the engineering labor market in Thailand, and we look at it as a case study to investigate the effectiveness of the ASEAN MRA on engineering services, which is the first MRA. We discussed the potential impact of regional integrations of the Thai engineering labor market. We set very simple questions and use the micro level data to investigate whether the MRA can reduce the migration cost enough so that the benefit of migration outweigh the cost. What we found is, in the Thailand context, the non-monetary cost is quite high as well as the monetary cost. For non-monetary cost is the psychological cost of living family. And we also look at the monetary benefit for Thai engineers. We try estimate the return to study in engineer in Thailand. And what we found is, when we compare to the other degree holders, person with engineering degree have a relative wages very high compared to the other degree. And when we compare to the other ASEAN country, the average wages for Thai engineer are much higher than most other ASEAN countries, except like Malaysia and Singapore. So we do not see any great chance or opportunity for most Thai engineer to utilize the MRA or move to work as engineer in the other ASEAN countries. And when we compare the compensations, we think that maybe other ASEAN engineer might want to move to work in Thailand instead. Let me conclude my presentations. The ASEAN labor mobility is supported by mutual recognition arrangements or MRA. However, the MRA has a limited scope and are not fully utilized because of several challenges. First, the different regulations across member states. Second, MRA focus just only on high-skilled professional, which is small number of workforce in ASEAN, cover very small number of workforce in ASEAN. Furthermore, we lack of uniform visa standard, so it limited incentive for the employers to hire the foreign workers. The ASEAN can overcome these challenges by trying to harmonizing national labor policies and enhance MRA enforcement and try to promote private-public partnership. That's all for my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Paweenawat. Next, it is my pleasure to welcome Dr. Jihee, who will share her presentation on the topic of Public ASEAN-Korea Cooperation Case of Learning Mobility, ASEAN Mobility Program, C1, and Major Outcomes. Please join me in giving her a warm round of applause.
Good afternoon. Let me start my talk with an old saying. Give a man fish, you feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish, and you feed him for a lifetime. I think this phrase captures very well for the importance of learning, which is the subject for my presentation. The human resource development is not just important for an individual, but it is important for the society, and it plays a key role in economic development of nations. And also it is one of 5 strategic pillars of MPAC 2025. Number 5, people mobility. People cross borders for travel, but also for jobs and also for learning. And my presentation, I will introduce the ASEAN Mobility Program. The program was proposed and initiated by the ASEAN member states. The program targeted toward learning mobility among the 10 ASEAN member states. And the program consists of 3 components. The component 1 dealt with the analysis of TB system of 10 ASEAN member states and its responsiveness to the labor market. The component 2 dealt with the exchange of students, which is the learning mobility, and the exchange of student teachers among the 10 AMS. The component 3 dealt with the national qualification framework and quality assurance in the CL envoy states. Let me briefly talk about the background of the program. At the point the program was launched, the ASEAN was faced with common challenges such as Industry 4.0 and the aging of labor force and environmental changes, and also you remember the challenges of COVID-19 and also the global competition. And to deal with these issues collectively, the program was initiated, and the objective of the program was to strengthen competitiveness of human resources of the 10 AMS, and also increasing labor mobility and learning ability among the 10 AMS. As I said before, it's composed of 3 components. The program is composed of 3 components, and the 4 leading HRD institutions in Korea participated in the program as the implementing agency. Component 1 dealt with analysis of TBS system and their responsiveness to the labor market in the 10 AMS. And the implementing agency was KRIVET. And the second component dealt with actual exchange of 400 students and 100 teachers, Tibet teachers in Tibet. And that component was implemented by the Korea Chamber of Commerce and Korea Tech. Component 3 dealt with the national qualification framework and the quality assurance for the 3 member states, and that was implemented by the HRD Korea. Okay. Now I'll spend more time talking about the Component 1 project. The Component 1 project is titled Enhancing the Competitiveness of Human Resources Through Responsive Tibet Curriculum, supported by industry environment and labor market information. The title implies 2 things. One, the human resource is an important source of national competitiveness. And 2, to improve the human resource competitiveness, we need technical and vocational education training program that are responsive to the labor market, and also need environment industries in the Tibet process. Okay. The KRIVET research team developed 4 sets of analytical framework to implement the project. The first analytical framework was to analyze the basic national human resource system, its strength and weakness. And the second analytical framework was to analyze the labor market demands, employee engagements, and labor market information system for 10 AMS. The third analytical framework was to analyze the process of Tibet curriculum development and its implementation. And the fourth was to analyze the best practices of Tibet programs in 10 AMS. Okay, that's the relationship among the 4 analytical frameworks. And actually, this is the implementation network of the project. We are very proud of it to establish. We had a project steering committee, which was composed of the ASEAN Secretariat, the ASEAN sectoral body representatives, also representatives of the 3 proponent ASEAN member states. You said KRIVET, we had 3 regional consultants, and we had 10 national resource persons. So we all together worked to make this huge project work. Okay. The final output is basically 10 country reports and 1 regional report. And most of the content that you'll hear from me today is from this regional report. Okay. Let me talk about the basic statistics that are interesting to share with you. If you look at the annual growth rate of the GDP among 10 AMS, their annual GDP growth rates are much higher than those in other countries, including the G7 countries. And population is important source of human resources, and there's variation, huge variation in terms of size of population. And the population growth is much faster among the AMS. And also the ASEAN member states still have very young labor force compared to other countries. But they just started to age because the annual population growth rate is still dropping slightly every year. Okay. This is a result from the labor force utilization analysis. If you look at the labor force participant rate by gender, the gender gaps are sizable among the AMS, which is the main reason for low labor force participant rate in many AMS. The same result is found in analysis of employment to population ratio. And I'll share with you some implications from the labor market utilization analysis of 10 AMS. There is a need to increase female labor force participation. And also, there's a need to improve the competency training for older-aged workers, because actually the older-aged workers in ASEAN member states work more than the older-aged workers in other countries. And also there is need to improve the rate of employment for the youth. Youth unemployment is still an issue in AMS. Okay, I'll skip this part. And finally, I'll share with you some implications of the project and policy recommendation for the ASEAN member states. First, we recommended that establishing and utilizing efficient, effective labor market information system is important. And don't forget to the part of strengthening employer engagement in the KRIVET process. The second, the strengthening TBET delivery system is important. Particularly, the TBET institutions are important tools to deliver the TBET programs. So strengthening TBET institutions are important. Also, it is important to establish the national qualification framework and also national competence standards of 10 AMS. Finally, and I think I like to stress this is one of the most important implications of the project, we propose that promoting ASEAN-wide cooperation to promote the HR competitiveness, and in particular the analysis of labor market, ASEAN-wide labor market is important to increase, not only to increase the labor mobility, but also to increase the learning mobility. And also the conducting projects at the regional level among the 10 AMS is important. And also this has been mentioned in presentation prior to me, the importance of strengthening the AQRF. We still have it, but we have AQRF working here, but we need to keep improving to make it more effective. Okay. Thank you for your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Choi, for your insights. Next, Mr. Sae-byuk will share his ideas on AI-powered HR SaaS to optimize talent attraction. Mr. Lee, you may begin your presentation.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's an honor to be here at this 12th ASEAN Connectivity Forum. In this part, I'm going to share how Codepresso uses the cutting-edge technology to push the boundaries in connectivity. And I'm Sae-byuk Lee, and I'm here representing Codepresso from South Korea. Today, I will keep my presentation simple and straightforward, focusing on a broader concept rather than getting into too many technical details. So as everyone knows, the theme of today's forum is the strengthening ASEAN connectivity, collaborative pathways with Korea. And as far as I'm concerned, connectivity encompasses the various definitions and objectives depending on the context, and so that the connectivity can be categorized into the physical connectivity, institutional connectivity, and a people-to-people connectivity. The Codepresso, we focus on a people-to-people connectivity. Using technology, we strive to make a connectivity more transparent, trustworthy, and seamless. Now let's dive into Codepresso. I'd like to invite you to watch a short video that introduces how we are leveraging technology to revolutionize the people-to-people connectivity.
In the high-stakes realm of tech industries, securing and managing top digital talent is more crucial and challenging than ever. Are you struggling with the cumbersome, qualitative aspects of digital talent management? It's time for a revolutionary change. Welcome to Codepresso, your next-generation HR SaaS solution, where skills-based digital talent management is available. Start with our advanced assessment service. Developed by industry experts, our project-level evaluations precisely measure candidate skills, ensuring you filter in only the most capable talent effortlessly. For companies that have trouble sourcing applicants, we pre-qualify developers from around the world to match you with the best fit for your team. Move beyond traditional, ineffective training methods. With Codepresso, deliver personalized, engaging upskilling and reskilling sessions based on actual assessment data. Our platform provides hands-on, practical learning experiences, all accessible with a single login, with no installations required. With all your data securely stored in the cloud, visualize and track your team's progress with ease. Our detailed dashboards offer insights at both macro and micro levels, allowing you to make data-driven decisions and demonstrate your strategic value to the company. Experience the future of HR. Request your free demo today. Make skills-based digital talent management a reality for your organization with Codepresso.
All right, so now I hope you have a better understanding of Codepresso. Let's take a moment to watch another short video, a brief introduction to our project-based assessment. This is our actual assessment platform, and this is about the Git. And this is about the artificial intelligence. On the left side, you will write the code, and on the right side of your screen, you will be able to check out the output of your code. This is about the prompt engineering for the generative AI. And this is about the web development. Since this is about the front end, once you write the code, the output of the code will be reflected on the screen. And this is about the data analytics. Now, as shown in the introduction and previously mentioned, Codepresso is making its utmost efforts in building bridges for the people-to-people connectivity through the cutting-edge technology. The representative example should be the cross-border IT recruitment platform to connect the verified IT talent from the worldwide. Instead of simply linking the companies and individuals, we build a trust. Codepresso uses our own globally standardized IT assessment service to quantitatively and objectively verify the talent. So both sides, the company and individual, can actively engage in a recruitment service. Through this, for instance, the ASEAN professionals would have opportunity to work for the Japan or European companies, while the Korean IT professionals would have opportunity to collaborate with countries in ASEAN. On the Codepresso platform, the individuals can have their skills assessed or certified without any restriction or biases. And while the companies can very easily hire the verified talent. Codepresso, we issue the major obstacles in global hiring, such as the lack of standard, disparate platforms, and unverified talent pools. And Codepresso is providing the most in-demand skills, AI, data analytics, and cloud computing. And of course, we are also specialized in offering on the cybersecurity and automotive software training and assessment, which is rare to find elsewhere. And in collaboration with AWS, we have designed a global architecture that allows millions of and billions of people from worldwide can simultaneously experience the Codepresso service. Of course, people in ASEAN countries can seamlessly use Codepresso service. And through these initiatives, Codepresso wants to make a meaningful contribution to the ASEAN connectivity and the ASEAN-Korean connectivity, and ultimately ASEAN world connectivity. Now, here are some of our efforts or contribution to the ASEAN connectivity. Last October, we have hosted the recruitment linked hackathon with the CJ Vietnam, one of the largest enterprises in Korea, and a university in Ho Chi Minh City. We also had another competition with the Don Duc Thang University, one of the prestigious educational institutions in Vietnam. And thankfully, we also had a great opportunity to work with the United Nations Industrial Development Organizations in Laos, providing a training and assessment for the future entrepreneurs in National University of Laos. And we also have hosted some kinds of the cybersecurity seminar with our trustworthy partner, participating in a Datacom Solution Day in Indonesia. And we also had another wonderful competition in a university in Tashkent in Uzbekistan. Now, here are some of our remarkable journey. We had the privilege of working with more than 80 clients with leading enterprises and organizations. And thankfully, the last, maybe August, Codepresso has been selected for the Vodafone's Global Acceleration Program run by the Tomorrow Street and the Technoport, making us to be the first Asian company. Now we are having very positive ongoing discussion with the representatives from Vodafone to adopt our services in Vodafone's global recruiting, because they have a plan to recruit more than 9,000 software developers within 5 years. And this is our Codepresso's global expansion journey. We have just incorporated in the UK and Luxembourg, and another incorporation in Japan will be completed soon. Now, we went to North America and South America for several times to introduce and promote our services. Now, we are looking forward to achieve more remarkable achievement in ASEAN countries in the near future. So in conclusion, Codepresso wants to make an impactful contribution to the connectivity, particularly in IT talent. Yeah, it was Codepresso. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. Finally, as the last speaker of today's forum, Dr. William Jones is joining us virtually and will share his insights on people-to-people exchange in relation to an ASEAN Schengen visa, opportunities and challenges. Dr. Jones, you have the floor.
Thank you, and thank you everyone for inviting me to the 12th ASEAN Connectivity Forum. Today I'll share some ideas that I have on a recently proposed ASEAN Schengen visa, and perhaps some opportunities and challenges that it may provide. The outline of my presentation comes across 5 points. First, sort of what is the ASEAN Schengen proposal? What is the target of this proposal? And then opportunities and challenges. And then last but not least, some concluding remarks on should we think big or should we think small with regard to this proposal. So first of all, the ASEAN Schengen visa proposal was put forth by former Prime Minister Sae-byuk in April of last year, 2023. This proposal would bring together 6 ASEAN member states: Cambodia, Laos, Malaysia, Myanmar, Vietnam, and Thailand, or put simply, the 6 members that encompass mainland Southeast Asia and have a high degree of connectivity on land. The proposal itself sets out a 90-day common visa and travel area between these 6 ASEAN member states for external countries, which currently does not exist. It is fully within the realm of national immigration and visa services. So moving on, the target of this Schengen visa proposal or scheme is, of course, tourism. I have a few graphs here for you. This here articulates pre-COVID, COVID, and also post-COVID tourist arrivals here in the region. And what we can see is, or what we can see from this graph, is the Southeast Asia as a whole, in particular, the six targeted countries are indeed very much in demand. In demand not only for business travel, but also leisure travel. Underlying, in particular, the middle portion of 2021 in COVID is the degree to which tourism contributes to these member states' overall economic performance and contribution to their economies. Here's just a graph of tourism revenue represented in billions of US dollars for the six states. Importantly, underlying these, if we look from my left or perhaps your right to left, Malaysia, tourism revenues account for roughly about 4% of GDP, while Thailand and Vietnam, 7% respectively. And really impressive is Cambodia, where we have $3 billion, but it represents some 10% of annual GDP for 2023 numbers. If we look at where tourists are coming from, kind of writ large, in terms of the 5 or 6 major groups of people coming into the region, it consists, of course, of China most recently, Japan, South Korea, Europe, North America, and Australia. Most importantly, though, to point out from this are the country or the developed countries off to the right, Japan, South Korea, Europe, the US, Australia. They already enjoy either between 30 days or upwards to 6 months of visa-free travel within the 6 member states proposed, aside from Myanmar, which has a rather restrictive regime comparatively. What this is to say overall is tourism is very important to these countries economically, in terms of their investment, in terms of employment, and this is going to be a critical driver moving forward into the future. Now, moving on, what are perhaps some opportunities? Of course, number one is to tap into the obvious demand that there is already present and will only rise in the near future for leisure travel, which will hopefully drive business investment, but then also employment within these member states itself. And perhaps sort of connected to that would be expanding tourism outside of the traditional hotspots, so to speak, and to perhaps facilitate investment into rural areas and the infrastructure that comes sort of with this, specifically along the border regions of the 6 member states where tourism, generally speaking, doesn't happen, but there are a lot of interesting places to visit. And perhaps the last 3 connect to private business and then also governments as a whole. I think it's important to understand the visa program as being a guideline or a facilitator for the private sector and tourist or the tourist industry and tourism business operators themselves to operate it and really leverage up and scale their businesses from national businesses to perhaps sort of regional scale. From the aspect of governments, I think this is a really interesting opportunity to perhaps begin harmonizing some very difficult areas of cooperation, namely the movement of people and migration across the member states themselves, which is quite highly regulated and traditionally within the realm of member states. And then last but not least, connected with that, is, of course, capacity building and harmonizing systems and structures for information sharing and security across the member states. Now that the opportunities have been shared, perhaps some of the biggest challenges here, I think, to this proposal. Number one, these 6 member states, while they share common borders, have incredible differences regarding their level of development, and then also the capacity of their national bureaucracies in terms of IT information and sharing this. This is going to be a very big challenge moving forward. From the perspective of, I know Thailand for sure, data security and data privacy is a very, very big problem or issue. The ability to secure it and then sort of share it with others in a comprehensive manner. Referring to one of the previous slides where we saw tourist arrivals, we do see those developed countries already having visa-free access to these countries, but increasingly countries are providing opportunities for China, countries of South Asia, also for visa-free travel. So we do see some fragmentation going on, and this is going to be a challenge moving forward. Last but not least would, of course, be the issue of security, transnational crime, migration, which is a very hot topic within the region, and how to actually mitigate these risks, be it at the national level or be it at the regional level. Which should we sort of choose? And that segues into some perhaps final concluding thoughts. Number one would be the issue of Myanmar, to take Myanmar out of the proposal for the immediate time being until they can provide a degree of national stability at home, and to think big or small. Should it be 6 member states, or should perhaps the more capable member states such as Malaysia, Thailand, Vietnam, take forth with the ASEAN minus X program and then allow perhaps states with less capability to join in later? Or should it be perhaps segmented to specific populations, thinking small, such as business travelers, education, study abroad, things of this nature, instead of going sort of piecemeal, or instead of going on a very large scale. But that being said, these are my thoughts. Thank you everyone for the time and your attention. I look forward to any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Jones and all the speakers. A round of applause for everyone, please. We will now move on to the last discussion segment of this session, and I will now hand over the floor to our moderator, Ms. Christina Chan, and the panelists.
Thank you, Helen. So good afternoon, esteemed speakers, I think distinguished guests, colleagues, and also the online audience. I think it's my privilege to welcome you to session 3 on the people-to-people pillar under the MPAC 2025. So connectivity, as spoken and shared, lies at the heart, right, of ASEAN's vision for a cohesive and also an integrated region. So it's really not just merely about building infrastructure or enhancing digital networks, but also fostering that connection that brings people, communities, and also countries closer together. We've heard from our 4 speakers on the critical role of nurturing connections, especially human capital development, knowledge sharing, I think, and also travel facilitation in strengthening this ASEAN community. So I think it was great to do a stock take. I think where we are today on the MRA, as Dr. Sasiwimon actually highlighted. I think to set some context, I think under the MRA there are currently 8 professions, so engineering, nursing, architecture, surveying, dental practitioners, medical practitioners, tourism, and also I think accountancy. I believe that I think working on one profession is already challenging. So my question actually for Dr. Sasiwimon, right, who is online. I mean, since there are 8 professions under the ASEAN MRA, how does their implementation actually varies across all these 8 professions? Yeah, thank you.
Yes, thank you for the question. The standard, imposed by each MRA vary by professions. For example, and let me give you two examples like engineer and tourism sector. For an engineer must first hold a license issued by the regulatory body of his or her home country. And they must have at least 7 years of working experience. And the applications would then be submitted to the ASEAN Charter Professional Engineering Coordinating Committee for review. And if it's successful, the applicant would be permitted to work in the other ASEAN country as a registered foreign professional engineers. In contrast, if we look in the tourism sector, case by case assessment have been eliminated entirely for the tourism sector. It allows automatic recognition for around like 32 tourism related occupations. The MIA opened up new opportunities for tourism professionals to work in the other ASEAN country. So this MIA is quite successful if you compare to the MIA in engineering services because it's quite foster like regional tourism corporations and development. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Sasiwimon. I'm just going to just jump to Mr. Lee for his Codepresso solutions because it's very much tech-based skills. I think we mentioned about these 8 MRA professions. Then how can your tech solutions, in a way, apply then to these professions?
As you have just mentioned, Codepresso is currently much focusing on the tech occupations. And but within next 2 years, Codepresso has a plan to expand our market to field such as marketing, HR, or the finance, or the occupations that you mentioned belongs to the ASEAN. And but from the perspective of enterprises, of course, we can use leverage technology to foster the connectivity. But from the perspective of the enterprises, we need to carefully think about the market scalability. If there is a lack of a standard or the kind of the certification, we consider that there is a market scalability, then we would like to enter. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Lee, Mr. Lee. So I think you mentioned just quite well. I think the ASEAN Qualification Reference Framework. I think this was also highlighted by our first 2 speakers, also by Dr. Choi as well. I think just to go back to Dr. Sasiwimon, I think where is ASEAN now actually in terms of the AQRF? And just to share with the audience again, this is a common reference framework that enables comparison of educational qualifications across participating ASEAN member states. Yeah.
Even though the ASEAN Qualification Reference Framework, or we call AQRF, right, serves as a regional mechanism to make a comparisons of occupations across ASEAN member states. Its implementation remains at varying levels across country. Like not all member states have fully aligned their national qualification framework with the AQRF. And with limited technical and institutional capacity in some countries, affect the effective adoption and use of the frameworks. And as we know, the differences in education and skill standard among ASEAN member countries hinder smooth integrations under the AQRF. Finally, I think the low awareness among employers, workers, and educational institutions might reduce the practical impact on the labor mobility is under AQRF. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Just a very just a quick question. I think if there is a profession that is able to cross the hurdle of the AQRF, right? Perhaps which profession will it be first to cross that hurdle? Maybe for Dr. Sasiwimon. Yeah. Just for Dr. Sasiwimon, just to get your thoughts, if there is one of the professions that's able to cross that hurdle for the AQRF implementation, would you then say that it would be the tourism profession that seems to be quite there at this point in time?
Yes, I think, we have 8 MRAs, right? And in my paper, we investigate the engineering services, right? But it's not quite successful in engineering services, right? Because we have so many regulations, right? But I think, maybe in the tourism service, occupation in tourism, sector MRA in tourism, right? That like we mentioned, it's around 32 tourism related occupations, right? So it kind of like for the tourism professionals, to work across ASEAN countries, it should be this example. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'm just going to move on to Dr. Choi because there's also a question for her. But before that, I'm just going to ask her my question. I think the C1 project is really a good initiative to energize the MRA, I think development, particularly taking the cue from the grounds up, right? And looking at areas where it matters, which is then your curriculum development. So I think what are the challenges in implementing this across all the 10 ASEAN countries? And also what are the primary industries that can actually benefit from this C1 project that you've started? And can I just ask that you put up the question again from the audience on the screen? Yeah.
Okay, thank you for the question. The biggest challenge for the project was, I think, having so many people working together at the same time. So we had about 70 people, 10 national resource persons, and 3 international experts. And also we have also had representatives from the sectoral bodies. So sometimes we had to go through, and I think this is the case with many governmental relationships. It takes slower, so you have to go through multiple stages of agreement to reach the final any output. You have to agree on all the outputs, and even during the process you have to agree on all the steps. But I think it's the other side of the coin. That's what it makes so successful, because you have all the agreements. And slow but steady progress, it was rewarding and it was worth it. And the second question about, should I continue?
Yes.
The industries, actually we analyzed the labor market demands for 10 countries, and each country had to come up with at least 5 leading industries that are most in high demand. And we tried to come up with the common industries that we can find names in the list of each country. And those to be, you would guess, the textile industries, and also textile and design, and also shipbuilding. I'm sorry, that actually is construction. Yeah, construction. That was those 2 are among the top. But for some countries like Thailand, the tourism was at the top list, and also we had automobile repair.
Okay, that means some of them are still not on the MRA profession list yet. Yeah. Okay, this is a question for Dr. Choi. I think I'll just read the question out. It says, thanks for explaining the ASEAN Mobility Program that is developed in support of KRIVET. Right, could you further explain the future plans of this program, and have there been any follow-up initiatives agreed with the ASEAN side? Yeah.
Actually, I can't really pinpoint right now, but there were at least 2 or 3 projects that came out of as a follow-up, but they were much smaller. And we actually looking for the same level of cooperation for including 10 countries and more large scale. That kind of cooperation talk for that kind of more large scale cooperation is still going on, but we haven't reached yet. What matters is the funding, always. And the project was funded by the ASEAN AKCF, ASEAN Korean Cooperation Fund. So we're hoping that we get the funding from them.
I see. Okay. Thank you. I think the last 3 panelists spoke about capacity building, I think, and labor mobility as a way to connect and also to integrate ASEAN, right? So another key element in the people-to-people connectivity is cross-border facilitation. And visa issues are critical because they directly impact the ease of movement of people across the ASEAN region. So I think if it's simplified, if it's harmonized, visa policies, we really can see the results, which is to foster greater tourism, business, and cultural exchange, which Dr. Jones explained earlier. I think we also saw spikes in arrivals when Malaysia, Thailand, and Singapore relaxed visa last year for China nationals. I think that which is what explains the high number of China nationals visiting the Southeast Asian ASEAN region. I think while the ASEAN common visa is the ultimate goal, I think Dr. Jones highlighted the idea of an ASEAN Schengen, right, visa mooted by Thailand, and to explore this scheme first with 6 ASEAN states, right? I think if the implementation does go forward, I think it does change seamless travel for Southeast Asia. I think specifically for Dr. William Jones, what is the lesson that we can actually learn from the Schengen visa? That's one. And also last year, EU announced that it will be implementing the European Travel Information Authorized System. So this is another layer, right? And also again, so what can ASEAN also learn from this? I think that was implemented because of security issues. So I think security continues to be very, very key, I think, in terms of relaxing visa for cross-border travel. So over to you, Dr. Williams.
Sure, thank you. I think the biggest takeaway from both of your questions, in particular, the soon-to-come European program, is first and foremost, these types of integrative programs, let's say, need to be dealt with a great degree of caution. The simple reason being, one country's borders now become another country's external borders. And I think we can see this very clearly with the European experience. Only recently, I believe of January of this year, including Bulgaria and Romania into the common Schengen area. And of course, you know, the rationale behind this was state capacity, trust, and then a number of other issues, but these two come to the fore. I think this is highlighted really strongly within the 6 mainland ASEAN states, where you have 2 or 3 with a far greater degree of capacity, and others perhaps with less. But to your point, I think maybe technology can help overcome this gap. We can see this not just with biometrics, but with the upcoming perhaps mass use of AI, which can do away with human decision-making, bottlenecks, checkpoints. but I think these security concerns will linger. And it's only by approaching that with a measure of caution, but then also perhaps the integration of technology and some degree of centralization that this can be overcome.
Okay, thank you, Dr. James. I think in one of your in your slide, I think what you've actually stated in terms of possible direction forward, I think one of the ideas you put across was possibly take Myanmar out of the visa scheme. But even if we take Myanmar out of the visa scheme, will this 5-member Schengen visa be able to proceed as quickly as I think what was intended or what they would like it to see, perhaps?
In all honesty, most likely not. I think this is why perhaps the ASEAN minus X proposals or schemes which have already been used perhaps provides the best framework where you can take the 2 or perhaps 3 most eager participants and begin moving forward and have the others catch up later. But that being said, I think Myanmar itself presents some very unique problems at the moment for ASEAN because of its internal problems, which not only stem from the civil war, but also, transnational crime, things of this nature, scamming operations, which are very heavily centered in Myanmar. And this was recently brought up at the ASEAN Summit and changeover to Malaysia. I'm sorry, not the ASEAN Summit, but the informal Bangkok consultation. This was a very, very big issue.
Okay, thank you. I think we only have a few minutes, but I'm just going to ask actually a closing question. I think to also end off session, the last session for today. I think with the AEC 2025 concluding this year, right? And we're going to embark on the new AEC up to 2045. I'm just going to ask all the panelists, just in one minute, right? How would you like to see people-to-people connectivity evolve to take ASEAN, I think, into the future? Perhaps I'll just start with the two panelists online first. Yeah, before we direct it to our panelists here. Maybe
Yeah, I would like to see an enhancing education and workforce mobility. We can build on the MIAs, right, across various professions to improve the mobility of skilled labor. And expansion of this arrangement into the new or just emerging fields technology or and sustainability. And I also think the creation of ASEAN-wide digital platform to provide access to educational resources, skill development program, and virtual exchange opportunity across ASEAN member would be good. Yeah, thank you.
How about you, Dr. William Jones?
Sure. From my perspective, I think I would like to echo Dr. Sasiwimon's thoughts. I would really love to see more integration and movement of study abroad among students within ASEAN or from ASEAN member states. I can speak to my own experience at MUIC. Each semester, we have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of students inbound study abroad, but these are primarily from North America and Western Europe. And it's only within I would say the last year and a half, where we begin seeing students from Indonesia and Malaysia. And I think it's this ability to have people experience other cultures and immerse themselves in it for a period of time and build those connections which may last throughout their lives, which are really fundamental to, changing perspectives, changing sort of outlooks that we can see from the European experience. And I think it's a shame we don't see that as of yet. But that being said, there are institutions and structures such as the ASEAN University Network already established across ASEAN. But I would really like to see this further enhanced and expanded.
Thank you. And then over to you, Dr. Choi.
Yeah, I think I can answer from the learning mobility perspective. When the component 2 part of the program recruited the applicants, in the beginning they were really worried because they thought they might actually the COCHAM, they thought they could not able to fill enough number of applicants, but there were so many applicants, so we had to really screen them. And if you think of that program that we are going to run, it was very short program. And it wasn't like it was there before, but it was the first beginning program. But people there challenged to come to the other countries to learn. So I think there is a big chance of running mobility programs. And also, if you might be familiar with the Leonardo da Vinci program from the European Union. And we are thinking that we can have maybe the same level of cooperation among the ASEAN member states in learning mobility.
And thank you. And just finally over to you, Mr. Lee, to take us home.
All right. So I'll give you an answer within 1 or 2 minutes. So I think I can give you an answer with a Codepresso speech and one of our proficiency model. Codepresso, we want to be one of the most trustworthy the IT assessment worldwide, similar to how TOEFL or IELTS during test recognized for the English proficiency. And for the companies, we want to reduce the cost of hiring and reducing by 50% while enabling a global recruitment. And for individuals, we want to give them a fair job opportunities, the employment opportunities purely based on skills, regardless of the race, gender, age, educational background, or nationalities. To do this, our Codepresso is trying to develop a standardized universal proficiency model, which means that we define a specific skill for each tech, AI, or data analytics, and we create an assessment and training based on the model. Then we deliver those training and assessment under the consistent framework. ASEAN has their own framework. Korea has our own framework. Australia has their own framework called the AQF. Yeah, but there is, as far as I'm concerned, there is no such as the common framework for IT proficiency. If we have one, and if it becomes one of the standard in IT proficiency, we can foster the connectivity, especially in people to people. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much to our session 3 panelists. So I'll just hand the time over to Helen. Yeah,
Yes, thank you very much for the panelists and for the moderator as well. You may now return to your seats.